And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Sorry, guys. Fixing some stuff. I'm hearing some background noise. But I fixed it.
There we go.
Welcome. We are not that late today. What is that?
What's that? That's my volume on my end. Just strange, because... Hang on.
All right, guys. While Joe figures that out, let me tell you who we are, why we are here. I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Also happen to be the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. I'm a guy who's been in this field for going on 22 years, doing my research for much longer. Been dealing with hair loss for 3 fucking decades. And I guess doing this show for about 21 years now.
Wow.
Is that
impressive?
Insane?
It's pretty insane.
Well, the reality is the reason I put that out there before I introduce you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Is that people are really there's a tremendous amount of confusion out there, and we keep hearing about it. And today was a very interesting day in my world on the back end of things. And the confusion is no one really understands, sadly, the new guys, the 200,000 of you waking up every day for the first time, realizing that you're losing your hair, understand where to get their information, because there are people out there who have developed followings and influence and whatever it is, and they're very confused. So once they kind of figure it out, watch some YouTube videos or go to different people's blogs or message forums, then they continue to do a little research, and lo and behold, once they actually start to Google stuff, they find the American Hair Loss Association, they find the Bald Truth, they find the IHRS, and they recognize, hey, wait a second, let me take a step back. Maybe what I've been being sold and told for the last week of my research might not be completely accurate. And it was very interesting. A guy contacted me today. He's been researching surgical hair restoration or hair transplant surgery for 2 months. And the exact words in the email, I don't have it in front of me because it's on a different computer, and I guess I could put the email on this computer, right? Were that he's found the American Hair Loss Association first because he read an article about hair transplant surgery. He went to the website, read some stuff, and then started to look at the ads next to what he was reading when he went back onto a search engine. Let's put it that way. And these people were offering the opportunity for him to be fixed. He didn't use the word fixed. He said, something, I forgot the exact words, but it was basically to get help, where we were providing an education. That is the biggest mistake so many people make. They choose not to take the time to educate themselves.
Right.
And they go and they try to become fixed. And they usually end up coming back to us after they've been fucked up in some way or ripped off. And I thought that was fascinating. This guy kind of caught it before it happened and recognized what was going on and then thanked us for what we're doing, which is always nice.
Always is, yeah.
But this guy's life was saved. I can tell you this. This email was sent to me. This guy's not a candidate for hair transplant surgery at all, for many reasons. B, when he did an online consultation with a very well-known physician, he was misled.
Happens with the best of them.
Didn't find our resources. He probably would have been sitting in the chair or would have decided to go down that path, and he would have lived a life of misery. And you know what? The doctor would have just gone to his, conference or had his conference call with his politician colleagues the next day and gone on like nothing happened and deposited this poor guy's check and then dealt with the consequences, however these guys are able to live with themselves sometime down the line, and basically make it the fault of the patient who shouldn't have had surgery in the first place.
That's the way it happens far too often.
And on that note, we were going to talk about the commoditization of this industry and essentially hair transplant costs today. I know that's something that you wanted to talk about, Joe.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I was going to say what you were saying about people taking the time to do their research, that actually kind of segues into hair transplant cost. And what I had in mind when we're talking about discussing this issue.
Man, you sound good.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a new microphone.
Joe's got a new microphone, guys.
Yay. No, I love this thing. Yeah, the other one served me well. Great recommendation from you and Zarian. Served me quite well for what, 4 years, almost 5 years.
It was your training microphone.
It was, my training wheels.
Yeah.
It pooped out, just died for no reason. No. Well, they all die for a reason, but it died for no known reason. I shook it. There's nothing like shaking around inside, so nothing broke. Just gave up. Wow. But the issue of research is it cannot be understated. I mean, or overstated. Sorry, it can't be overstated. But when we're talking about research, we're normally talking about, understanding more of the nuances of what people are talking about, and really to learn how to spot the misleading statements, like say, FUE versus sapphire FUE. It's still FUE. It's just they're using a blade made of sapphire stone as opposed to a needle or a steel flat blade. There's no difference in the procedure whatsoever. It's just a marketing gimmick. But one of the questions that I get more than most is, like, when I do my videos about different clinics I introduce to my website and my YouTube channel, I'm always seeing in the comments section, what about the price? Or why aren't you talking about the price? And this is something that, it's been on different forums for years. Like, I remember when I first, it's also one of the more searched for key terms when you're doing online searches is hair transplant cost. And I understand, especially today, with all the marketing out there for clinics that are giving all-inclusive packages for, the cost of a high-end iPhone, people want to know cost. But the reason why I don't talk about cost when I'm introducing a new clinic, and the reason why most better clinics don't put pricing on their website, is because when you're doing your research, you might get a graft estimate one of two ways. You might either come up with your own graft estimate based on looking at pretty pictures on multiple websites or forums, or you might actually get a consultation from one or two clinics, and they might have a similar estimate for what you need. So you're going to take that number, that estimate of what you think you need or what you've been told you need, and you're going to apply that to every clinic you go to, and you're going to price shop. And that's the wrong way to go about it, because a lot of times there will be one or two clinics that don't follow the path of what the other clinics are following, and they'll give you a different recommendation. And it may be a better recommendation, But if you have a preconceived idea of what's going to cost because their pricing is on their website, or because when I'm talking about them, I've told you what the pricing is per graft or per session or whatever, you're selling yourself short. And I say that because when I was a consultant in my consulting career, I can't count the number of times that someone would come to me and say, yeah, I saw your website or saw your results or whatever. What do you charge per graft? And the reason why they would ask that question is because they did already have an idea of what they needed. And more times than not, they were wrong about what they needed. They were told they needed, 2,000 grafts from a clinic that no one's really heard of, or they were told they need 1,000 grafts on a Norwood 6, right? I mean, really obvious situations where they're expecting it's going to be $3,000, $4,000 when it's actually going to be $12,000, and vice versa, right? I've seen cases where patients have been overestimated. You're going to need 5,000 grafts to do this the right way, when in reality, if they're on medication, gave that a shot for a year first, they might need only 1,800 grafts just for the front, because the medication might, build up the back and the mid scalp. So it can scare you off. So if someone says, yeah, you need 5,000 grafts, you're doing the quick math because you know what different clinics charge, then you might be selling yourself short and missing out on great opportunities to be treated by a more ethical and comprehensive clinic that has your best interests in mind.
Well, and I think a major reason why we thought about this today, or you thought about this today, is there's some going-ons. There's always some political stuff happening in the background, and it's unfortunate. But there was a statement made today by someone who I really happen to like, and who is he's a good guy. But it's possible he got bitten by a little bit of the political bug, and I understand why. I mean, I do believe that this particular organization, it's important for the field, and it really should, if it's stuck to its mission, they have a great opportunity to really educate physicians when it comes to this specialty. However, he made a statement saying that the enemy of this field are those who are commoditizing hair transplant surgery. And it was a very interesting statement to me, because then all I had to do is do a very basic search on hair transplant. And the first thing that you see, at least here in Los Angeles, is Bosley Hair Restoration, up to 40% off, ends in 8 days.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I better get down there.
8 fucking days.
Better run.
Fix your receding hairline, 5-star rated FUE clinic. Low-cost hair transplants, $3 and $600 travel credit. Now, every person or every clinic that is advertising that way has at least one physician, or all their physicians, who are members of the ISHRS. If that isn't the commoditization of surgery, I don't know what the fuck is. The commoditization of this field would never have existed if it wasn't invented by the politicians of this field.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the craziest thought, even to put that out there. And I'm sorry, the person that wrote that, I'm just trying to make a point. You need to, I want you guys to wake up. You are being spoon-fed a bunch of bullshit. You may not be putting out specials. You may not be trying to induce people to have surgery based on price. But I can tell you that most of your colleagues are, and most of the biggest mouths and the most political figures in this field are. And they are the ones who led the way and opened the door and essentially, in my view, created the black market.
Yeah.
And they continue to fuel it. They are basically giving the oxygen the black market needs with every move that they're making. And they're blind to it. So yes, if you're leading with cost, if you're leading with a sale, if you're telling people that there are 8 days left to meet to get the special, yeah, you're part of the problem. Because this is real fucking surgery, people. And if you're going to act as though you're a medical society who only cares and has the patient's best interest at heart, then you need to put an end to this shit. However, if you want to stick in your lane and just educate physicians about, on how to perform hair transplant surgery to state-of-the-art standards, you have a tremendous opportunity to do that. You got to pick one or the other because you're unable to do what you guys are claiming to want to do at this point. It's it's right here, black and white, blue and white. This spells the big fail of the system, the big fail of the politics. The reality that you sound really good, by the way, Joe. I forgot if I didn't tell you.
Everyone in the chat room is saying the same thing.
Yeah. The reality that, and I wrote this, politics kills productivity. Politics stifles creativity. Politics essentially puts the kibosh on true teamwork. You cannot accomplish the goal of saving this field and saving the patients who depend on it without true teamwork. There's no such thing as teamwork just within while you're trying to kind of protect your turf. You have to go outside of those dots.
Yeah, that doesn't mesh.
It doesn't
like oil and
work.
water. It can't be. Yeah, it doesn't. It's contradictory.
I was told, I'm going to say this publicly now, and I think it's important. It's an important statement, and then we'll get back into this. Essentially, we have a significant answer to this problem. And we were drip feeding some of the information out to these guys as they were talking to us. I was told by the former president of the ISHRS that the ISHRS, what was the word that he used? Will never capitulate to Spencer Kobren. And first of all, I'm a Jew. If you're not a Jew, you may not understand this. This guy's a Jew too. So I was really shocked. I was really shocked they would say that. It's a very famous quote from Adolf Hitler, by the way. Essentially saying they will not, Germany will not capitulate. They will go down in flames.
Yeah.
Before they capitulate. But even using the word capitulate, when I'm speaking about, and we're trying to have a conversation about teamwork, collaboration, working together to help and to change this field, to make sure consumers are safe. And simply because in the real world, the American Hair Loss Association and the IHRS is the hierarchy. It's not my fault that's the way that it happened. We were just more effective. That's it. He made that statement, and he said it will never, ever happen. So those who are wondering why we're not working together, those who are wondering why there are a lot of unhappy physicians out there and a lot of patients who are still being harmed, I can tell you that is the reason. How's that, Joe? Too honest?
That was good.
Okay.
No. I mean, nothing wrong with honesty. It hurts sometimes, but it's still the truth.
Capitulate.
That was a bad choice of words.
I'm like, listen, dude, this is all you guys need to do. It's going to cost everybody a very small amount of money to make this happen collectively, as opposed to throwing out hundreds of thousands of dollars on something. Actually, millions, if you really think about the 2 year time frame, or maybe $1 million, who knows? But at least a few $100,000. Make this happen, quick turnaround. Patients are saved. Patients' lives are saved. Good doctors will not have to worry about this black market. Simple. We will not capitulate to Spencer Kobren. Okay. And here we are, talking about the same shit over and over again. Guy's just keeping me in business. He doesn't even realize it. Joe? Sorry.
Sorry, I just got distracted because it looks like a politician wants to join the hair transplant mentor group of exceptional hair restoration specialists.
You know what? Good. Maybe he won't be a politician anymore.
Maybe. It'd be interesting. I know of him quite well. He might actually be mentor material.
Mentor material.
Yeah, you like that?
You want to take a phone call?
Sure.
Okay. Phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from South Florida.
Morty. How are you, man?
What's up, guys? Good to hear from both of you.
You too. Good to hear from you.
I have one. Yeah, well, indeed. So I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Jeff Epstein did not kill himself.
Because you met with him personally, right?
That's right.
Oh, so you had the consultation?
Yes, I did.
You did.
That's what I was. Yeah, we were. For those who are listening, Spencer and I were exchanging some text on Instagram, and hopefully the Instagrammers are listening. And I made the appointment, and I went to go see him this afternoon. Got done with him met him at 2. Was out of there about 3:30. Genuinely nice guy. Very, very passionate about what he does. I really like the office. It's attached to a hospital, a real hospital, which is probably the best thing that I've seen from most of the clinics that I've visited. It's a real, it's like a real hospital with an emergency room and everything. That was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a pretty busy office. Met with Roxy, who is his assistant. Had to sign a few documents. One of them was a HIPAA document. Another one was a hush document, which is surprising. I've never seen that in a doctor's office, and I'm not going to get into details because I don't want to get sued. But I'm just going to say that.
That's interesting. So
I liked him.
So there was a document going around for a while. There was an organization that set up this document basically so that patients would not write about their experiences online or something like that.
I can neither confirm nor deny that that's what the document said.
So you telling me that you wouldn't have been seen if you didn't sign this document?
I can neither confirm nor deny that the document basically protects the doctor from defamation when it comes to speaking online, that, those types of things, and reserves the right of the doctor to sue me for things that I may or may not say.
No, why would it be defamation if you are saying, if you're stating what?
Well, I don't remember the exact. This document, in terms of what the words were, I don't remember the exact details. I just was very surprised. You know me. I don't speak ill of anyone. And I said I really enjoy Dr. Epstein. Dr. Epstein is really looking like possibly the doctor for me. I have to see whether the schedule makes sense and everything. But it's just surprising to see a document like that. So I just thought I'd mention it.
I thought those were obsolete at this point in 2020. I'm actually surprised. Like that doesn't necessarily take him out of the realm of being an IHRS member. I mean, obviously there's a reason why some doctors feel the need for that. However, I'm personally not a fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Let's put it this way: from what I could see, I don't think Dr. Epstein has anything to worry about. I mean, he's been doing this for 20 some odd years, very knowledgeable, and obviously he's birds of a feather. I talked about the various other doctors that I had consults with, and he shared his opinions on them, which I'm not going to discuss.
Oh my God. So basically you've been gagged.
Pretty much, yeah.
But suffice to say, I mean, he painted himself in a positive light, which I'm not surprised that he's there to try to sell me his services.
Let me ask you this once. Did he once mention that he's an IHRS accepted member? I doubt it.
I mentioned you specifically,
yeah,
and that I speak with you, that I'm a regular caller, and that I found him through you.
Well, that's fine.
And then the form came out for you to sign, not to talk.
Yeah.
Right?
And then he went on to say what?
No. Oh God, Spencer, you're really gonna pull me? Are you gonna just have me write him off because I like him as a doctor?
No, why write him off? I've been working with him for 20 years.
Okay. All I'm going to say is that Spencer, you are a lightning rod amongst this community. Now that I've talked to a number of people, who every time I mention his name, and they always have interesting things to say about you. But you know what? That makes me cling to you even more, because anyone who feels that they need to use defensive language or language which may not necessarily be wholly positive is good, because it means you're a gadfly. You're like oh God, what the heck's the name of the guy who wrote Unsafe at Any Speed?
Ralph Nader. But this is I find this interesting.
Ralph Nader of this industry. Okay.
Now I find this interesting. That I would think that Jeff Epstein would be like would only say things that were wholly positive about our experience and about, I'm not even offended by it, and about my position in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, I'm not going to get into it. I called you because I wanted to give a report on
holy shit
on him, and I just wanted to say that he's very knowledgeable, and that the approach that he's going to take was very similar to what Dr. Charles had showed me. And quite frankly, in terms of there's a lot of similarity between him and even what Joe Greco talked about when we talked, and actually even to a certain extent what Wesley had talked about. So it's good. I'm kind of zeroing in on what the real possibilities are, and what the real hopes that I'm going to have and what I'm going to end up getting done if I get done, and what the results will more likely be. And to me, it just came down to, okay, is this someone I can trust? And that's kind of what I was going to meet him face to face, just to kind of get that feel, because historically I'm not very good at judging people's character, and I've made mistakes in the past. And when it comes to something like this, I want to really be sure, at least as best as I can. And a big part of the reason that I'm down to these doctors is because of you guys. So just to lay that out. But yeah, and I mean, he didn't say anything disparaging. It wasn't anything like that. And he talked very positively about other doctors that I mentioned.
Good.
So
just not about Spencer Kobren.
Just not about Spencer Kobren. which honestly is really fascinating to me, because he has been part of, and I just want to let you know, this isn't something that I'm surprised about. I was made privy to some other information not too long ago, about a year ago, in June actually, and it's shocking to me, to tell you the truth. I really think that there are some doctors out there who have been bit by the political bug, and they can't accept the fact, fully accept the fact, that there's a layman who's out there who is essentially in a position, especially if he wants to be, to completely redirect this field. And I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm good at what I do. Fuck it. Even if the guys that pay me don't like me, that's a good thing.
It means you're doing something right.
As long as the checks keep coming, right? Exactly.
Look,
all I know is that I feel like you're in my corner, Spence, and that to me is very valuable, and that's why I keep on calling this show.
Well, we are in your corner, and I'm glad that you had a good experience with Dr. Epstein.
I will,
for the most part.
I need to interrupt. I will take exception, because you said that you feel like he led you into a position where you're better able to understand what's realistic, something like that, right?
Well, it's not just him. I think it's a combination of all of these different doctors and their various approaches. It seems like they're converging on a very similar approach. Like, they're all talking about the number of grafts being about the same, the placement being about the same, the tooling being the same, and quite frankly, even you want to talk about price, we can even talk that the pricing is similar. you know.
But didn't we give you an idea of what was possible from the beginning? Didn't we tell you?
You did.
And you had to go to these doctors to confirm it. Not to tell you, but to confirm that we were right.
Damn, Joe. Why are you gonna make it about you?
But apparently not. But apparently not 100% right, because Spencer Kobren is. Yeah, I mean he's done a lot for this field, and I like him. He's a friend of mine. However, there was definitely a however there.
This is awesome.
I can neither confirm nor deny that the word "however" was used.
You are hilarious, buddy. You know
Jesus. That. However,
I love it.
However, he's not a doctor, or however, he is he's a bit of a controversial figure, or
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, or he unfortunately is polarizing this industry, or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Fuck,
I don't know, man.
I can't even
the
fucking.
The only people that you're quote unquote polarizing is your. Well, you know what? Look, as far as I'm concerned, you're basically the Ralph Nader of this industry, like I said before, and we need people like you to make sure that these people stay honest. And obviously you're not a senator or anything like that, so I don't think you're going to get any legislation passed. But hey, if you decide to run in 2020, I think you'd probably do pretty decently against the Donald, especially if you can point out his terrible hair.
Thanks, man. I have a little Trump the early years going myself. But go ahead.
Yeah. But no, like I said before, on the positives for me is just some of the practical things. First of all, surprisingly, he wasn't the most expensive estimate that I got. I had numbers that were two of the doctors that I'd spoken with had higher estimates than him. Two of them had lower ones. When we can talk numbers, but the pricing was pretty much what you guys had me to expect, which was, for me, for those who don't know, I believe I'm a Norwood 5 at this point. It's for the first procedure, which would take care of the front, mostly the front, maybe a little bit in the front to mid scalp. That 22 to 2,500 grafts. FUE, we're looking at anywhere between 17 on the high end and 12 on the low end, depending on which particular doctor we're talking about. So if you want to talk price, that's price.
Mike R in the chat room says that he gets the same vibe. Maybe Mike hasn't been gagged, but he can call in, and I'm really curious about what's being said. So Mike R in the chat room, call in 888-659-3727. I think this is a great conversation to have, because what it shows. This is what it shows, and I guess I've known this for years. A, there's really no friends in this field, but B, there is this significant disconnect and lack of understanding about what we do. There are some physicians who have been accepted into the IHRS who are doing great work and who, utilize to some degree the resources that we have to help to educate consumers. However, there are those who kind of feel like they're being ripped apart, like they're being torn in two different directions, because they want to be politicians, they want to be in the in the medical society, yet they're with the IHRS, and it could cause them some issues. They think, but they also understand the need and the importance to be a part of the IHRS. I just wish people could just be completely forthright. It would make things a lot easier, and it would be a lot better for patients. Because to even put any doubt in anyone's mind, especially when someone says, "I found you because of Spencer Kobren," and then for them to put any type of a doubt of either the show's legitimacy or the information that we provide, or whatever, our character or my character, to me, that's questionable in itself.
Well, I think it shows poor judgment and, more importantly, poor taste, because on a couple of reasons. Number one, if someone comes in and says, "I found you because of Spencer Kobren," or because of this resource, and then for them to turn around and say, "Oh, it's great, yeah, but it's a pity you found us that way," or whatever. I think it also it's contradictory to creating unity in delivering a solid and safe message for patients, because what you're doing, what I'm doing, what we're doing together, it is absolutely nothing short of 100% the truth for patients to use for themselves. And if patients use that truth to find a doctor that you're working with, and then that doctor turns around and puts some sort of caveat in the relationship, like, what does that say for the industry itself? I think, honestly, that's a perfect mirror or a perfect window into the larger overall issue with this industry at large. Like, if you can't, I mean, that the more I think, like, I was in the chat room looking at some stuff, but as I got away from that and started thinking about this more, it's like, that's it's poor taste. It's poor taste, and it's sad. It does reflect the greater industry overall.
Well, I mean, having met a number of the doctors now and talking to them, and more importantly, finding out the details about what their qualifications are like or not like, what their past is like, in terms of questions of ethics. As a potential patient, it does give me pause. And it's unfortunate, but like I said before, I'm navigating this with your guys' help, and I'm very appreciative.
Well, I want to say that I think that what you're talking about, it is unfortunate, but I think that ultimately, look, you're learning a lot. You've learned a lot, and I'm super proud of you of how you put the brakes on everything, and you've decided to do more research, try individual treatments away from other treatments, so you're not compounding treatments, so that if something is working, you don't know which it is. I mean, you're taking the right steps, and I'm really proud of how you've come along. I want to make it clear that regardless of these, I'll call them issues, you got to make the decision that's best for you, the way that you understand it, and ultimately this is your head. And
yes, it is.
There's so many factors going into deciding on which doctor is, should receive the honor of operating on you, because it is. It is an honor it should be looked at as an honor for a doctor to be able to work on a patient, especially when it's an elective situation. If it's an emergency situation, I mean, they have no fucking choice. But you're spending your time and your money to find that one place, that one doctor, that one specialist, and for anyone to say this guy did this and then chose me, I feel good about it. I'm glad I earned it. So find that doctor, whoever it is, and make your choice. Keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, one last thing I want to say about price, and the whole thing kind of reminds me of the story. I was at a bike store one day, and good friends with the owner. By the way, I'm actually moving my ass back to New York come January the 24th.
Really?
The movers, just
okay.
FYI. Yeah.
All right.
Well, mazel tov.
This place just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I don't think it ever did. But let's keep it moving. So I'm in the bike shop, and this guy walks in, and he's looking at some. And Joe, you know this because you're a cyclist. He's looking at some helmets from Specialized, and the Specialized helmets, they're like $250 a piece. And then there's some cheaper ones. You can get a helmet $50, $60.
Yeah.
And he says, "What's the difference?" And I said, "Well, let me ask you a question." I said, "How much money do you think your head is worth?" Okay. And he said, "I said you don't want anything to happen to your head, right?" I'm like, "Yeah. Well, then I would go for the more expensive helmet, because you basically don't want to take any chances. You only got one of those."
Right.
Yeah.
And if you got a cheap head, you go buy yourself a cheap helmet. My head's not cheap, and the truth is, I have the specialized top of the line helmet. It cost me about $200 and change, and I'll wear it proudly. It fits nice, it's comfortable, and because of those reasons, I do not, I don't try to avoid wearing it, and thusly I stay safe. I would say the same thing is true for a hair transplant. You only got one head, and considering all of the possible downsides of something going wrong, you do not want to skimp on this. You really don't. If you want to skimp, then just don't have it. And
that's a great analogy with the bike helmet, and the specialized helmet is a good helmet. that's what I got.
Yeah.
No, wait, I got something else, but I almost got a specialized. They're good helmets.
So let me ask you this, Morty. Are you actually going to have surgery?
Mm-hmm. Am I actually going to have surgery? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't. I'm leaning towards it. It's going to be one of those things, Spencer, where I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to say, all right, Morty, time to shit or get off the pot, And if the answer is shit, then I give a call to whomever that doctor is and I book the fucking thing. And I just hold my breath and I get through it because I know what I'm in for. But if it comes down to the other way, it'll be one morning looking at myself in the mirror and saying, do I really give a fuck what my head looks like anymore? And at that point, I'm just going to stop the treatment. I'm going to fucking shave it bald and the hell with the damn thing. Basically.
Well,
but that thing hasn't come yet. So.
I would say that that should always be your first option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was for many years.
Yeah. So
I actually did an interview with the guy over at Bald Cafe yesterday. And he's got his own YouTube channel, and we were talking. I actually mentioned you, Morty, where talking about this process that you're going through with the treatments, and that you're taking your time. And it was a great conversation. There are going to be some clips coming out on his channel soon. But yeah, I mean, shaving is an awesome option, and I think you got a good head shape for it. I think it would look good on you if you were. And don't forget, you can try that first, because if you don't like it, it grows back.
This is true.
Yeah, it's free. It's a free treatment. Mm-hmm. Well, not free. It's 10 cents for
I've buzzed
whatever
it before,
razor.
But I've never actually gone. Yeah. I've buzzed it before, but I've never actually gone skin. I've never actually gone razor skin. Never done that.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, you could get just a good zero buzz with electric clippers. I think that would be enough. I think it would look good.
Well, what the hell? I may just do that this weekend just for shits and giggles. It's going to have to be shaved anyway if I'm going to get surgery. So.
Well, you know what? That's smart, and that's good thinking right there. Shave it. See what it looks like.
Yeah.
Go to the bars.
No, Yep. It's been a little while since I cut it that short anyway, and you know what? Fuck it.
All right.
Yeah. Cut it short, get some meat.
Actually,
send pictures.
You know what's really funny? The lead singer from Disturbed has got a completely shaved head. I don't know if you're familiar. He happens to be a Jew, not only Jewish, but like super religious and stuff like that. He actually was a Talmudic scholar, and then he ended up, falling off the derech, as they say. But Disturbed is doing very well, and he looks pretty good, completely bald. He's got the little flavor saver going on under the lip, But yeah, fuck it. That's a damn good idea. I need to do that shit. I'm going to do that this weekend. Screw it.
Listen, dude, let us know. Send us pictures, or send Joe pictures.
All right, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
All right, man.
I'm going to leave to the next caller.
Dude, thank you for the insight. Talk to you later.
Yep. Good call as always.
See you later.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
I would say, if it was anybody else, I would say, can you believe that shit? But no, man. That's just been the nature of the relationship. As hard as I try to always do the right thing for this guy, that is the nature of this person's personality. Does that make it? Does that affect him as a physician? No.
No. Well, that's what I was saying to Morty. It's like, regardless of this, it's like if he's the one for you, I wouldn't being that specific, but that's what I was talking about.
But I am a little bit surprised and concerned about it's not Public Citizen, I forgot the name of the group that put out these, essentially these, prophylactic gag orders.
Yeah.
And I don't really know too many hair transplant surgeons that are still or are attempting to use them.
I've heard of one fairly recently.
But that was a guy in Texas, right?
But it's not about the. Well, there's misleading information online. It's not about the anything in the consultation. It's about the surgery, and it has to do. It has to do with. Actually, I don't remember the details, but there's someone out there that also that's doing that, and and here's the thing, like. I've told people this before. Like, if you got a complaint about a clinic, and the clinic is kind of aggressive with patients that have complaints, the number one thing that they're going to threaten you with, like if it gets to the point of threats, is they're going to threaten you for defamation, all this stuff. The number one way to legitimately share your experience is just stick to the facts with zero embellishment. Don't make any comments about state of mind or what likely happened the night before, or like if someone was like any observations that are opinions, keep it out.
Exactly. You could say,
I went to Clinic A.
I went to Clinic A.
I was told with new grafts.
Right.
This is what I looked like before. This is what I looked like right after.
I am unhappy.
Whatever. I am unhappy with my result here at 12 months. Boom. Done. They can do zero. Like there's no court in the land. I'm not an attorney, but no one would look at this and say, "Oh yeah, we got him. Oh, he shouldn't have said that. It was 2,506 grafts, not 2,505."
Well, here's the beauty of it. There's something called defamation per se, and there's something called, you basically have to prove damages. In order to even prove or to show defamation per se, it has to be clearly visible that what was stated, whether it's libel or slander, whether it's written or spoken, was knowingly untrue.
Yeah,
that's it. I have a lot of experience in this because I've essentially won the largest online defamation lawsuit against a physician in Los Angeles County. And actually, to my knowledge, one of the in California.
Yeah.
And I won it on a forced judgment, meaning this guy had nowhere to turn. I told the attorney what number I'd be happy with. You put that out there on a 998 offer to compromise, which goes down as a judgment, affects their credit. It's a whole thing, just like it went to trial. This guy was like, fuck. I'm calling my pants down. That is unusual. So what I'm saying is you got to be a real fucking idiot for that to happen to you. Also, but on the flip side, you never want to do anything anonymously because that proves a certain malice and intent.
Yeah.
And you can be as anonymous as you think you are, as many IPs as you think you're using. You can be caught. Trust me, I caught him.
Yeah, yeah. It just takes patience and observation.
Right. So if you want to file a complaint of anything publicly, all you do is have to tell the truth. Never try to be anonymous. Never try to do anything that's clandestine. That'll fuck you up more than anything.
Absolutely.
And that's why I can now send 10 kids to college if I needed to.
Congratulations.
And the person is no longer practicing.
Neil in the chat room has twice said, "Joe, can I see your crown?" Neil, this is your lucky day.
Dude, are you going to pull a crown out from somewhere?
That'd be awesome. Here it is. And by the way, I see Bald Cafe is actually in the chat room. Welcome, my friend.
Oh, and
had a great time talking with you yesterday.
Bald Cafe, how are you, man? I was going to say something to FSK. I am going to be reaching out to the physician in question. I have a couple of other questions, concerns as well. So I want you to know that this is not something that is forgotten. There was a big meeting in Bangkok. Was not in a position where I would be able to get in touch with this person personally, but I am going to make that happen. And you'll be made privy to what goes down. Phone number is 888-659-3727. All right, let's see Joe's crown. Holy shit, that looks good, my man. It's going to take a little while for for everyone to see it. And for anyone who's listening to the program on iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, Stitcher Radio, wherever this program is heard live, you can see that. Joe just showed everybody the progress of his last hair transplant, and it's pretty amazing.
It's it'll be, was it 4.5 months? No, it'll be 5 months beginning of next month. So just over 4.5 months. I'm really happy with it so far. It makes me realize where there's need for more work. I see another area that's like, oh, damn it, I should have.
Let's make this happen. I should have ironed my shirt today, but I was in a rush. Anyway, let's take a phone call.
Let's do it.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is James from Texas.
James from Texas. What's happening, man?
Hey, how are you guys?
Pretty good. Cannot complain.
Good.
What's going on?
So since tonight is shows about hair transplant costs, I just wanted to ask something related to that. Since Turkey's the capital for hair transplants because they're more affordable, do you think that hair transplants and the costs in the U.S. will ever go down? And if so, do you think that would help or hurt the industry?
Good question. I think ultimately they will come down eventually, like slowly and eventually, because that's just the nature of competition. More clinics are entering into the industry, even in North America. I mean, more clinics are opening. I don't see that changing until some sort of legislation makes it impossible for that to happen. And right now in North America, all the states and provinces that allow hair restoration, and I say that because at least one province in Canada almost doesn't allow it based on how they got their rules set up, which is really bizarre. But assuming it continues as it is, the price will eventually come down probably a little bit, but there's only so low you can go simply because the cost of living, economics in North America are vastly different than they are in Turkey or other countries where it's really inexpensive. I mean, no one in North America as a technician would be doing a procedure for less than, that's actually involved for less than $15 an hour. No one that's a physician that's involved on any level would do it for any less than what a lot of people think is a lot of money. I mean, it's you gotta understand is that there are more plastic surgeons getting into hair restoration than ever before, even though they're not actually doing the surgery, they're delegating to technicians, and one of the reasons why they're delegating is because it's not financially worthwhile even now for them to do it themselves, because in the time it takes to do one, say a 2,500 graft procedure, they've already done 2 boob jobs for $10,000 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where's the motivation financially for them to do it themselves? So I think it might come down a little bit, but not much. I just don't see a lot of room for that to happen. But we'll see. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, because I just think that's probably the most, the biggest motivator for a lot of people that do fly overseas is because of the more affordable cost. But
I can tell you this. I agree with Joe. I actually think that the price of hair transplant surgery will eventually go up to some degree. I think that at least here in the U.S. I think that even though there's going to be
up or down?
Up. Even though there's going to be more saturation in the market, and people are going to start competing more on price, there will be the guys who kind of will be made to be able to kind of separate themselves and still be elite. So to really get the best hair transplant, for the guys who are going to take the time to do the work, prices may go up or at least stay the same. But it's possible they're going to go up as they see all these turnkey guys go down and realize they don't have to compete with these pieces of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think the elites that are really, I mean, the separation once it becomes more obvious as far as the quality, I think that if anything, some of these places can get more expensive.
Mm. Now, for someone like, okay, so for like you, Joe, you said you've had 10 transplants, right? But you you're in the I guess you're kind of you have the in the industry, you have like the connections. But for the average person, the average Joe, so to speak, in order for them to have what you have had, approximately what would that have cost them?
Well, it's a good question, but most people wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing, because I was talking about this in one of my earlier videos. It's like the first 2 surgeries I had with Dr. Wong as repair, that's all I really needed. Like the third one, like in his own words, it was icing on the cake, and we only did that because there was a conference coming up that he was going to take me to and use me as a model patient. Thank you very much. And I mean, everything since then, it was like my 4th surgery with him was a scar revision, because the donor scar in the occipital region had stretched, and we got like a few hundred grafts from that too, and that was it. That's all we did. The 5th surgery was the one in 2010, I think. The last one I really did with him before I left the clinic, and that was where he took 2 strips on either side, and that was one I did want. So I guess if you were to tally up the ones that I felt were necessary for my overall aesthetic, you'd be looking at probably first one, second one, third one. Yeah, around 30,000 or so, maybe 35,000. It's around there somewhere, I guess. But that's spread out over almost 20 years, right? Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm just curious. Years ago, like I guess I don't know how long hair transplantation has been around, but I'd imagine like less than 100 years, right? Maybe roughly. Or less than that?
Oddly, funny you mentioned that. That's not entirely true according to some people. There's some people saying that it was actually performed before. Well, I actually wrote about one case in 1921 where there was a device that was invented to transplant hair. Well, I forgot the details, but yeah, as far back as 1921. But even before then, in the late 1800s, supposedly there was some work being done, just almost like a experimental level, not as a regular offering as we know it today. But yeah, I mean, long time ago, it was available, at least on some level. Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder what kind of tool they would have used. You know, for nowadays we compare
pickaxes.
Different sizes and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I mean, make no mistake.
Wow. Okay. I had something else. It just kind of slipped right there right now. Oh, another thing too is so even with like the advancements we've made, it's safe to say that we're at the obviously every new day is the latest and most advanced we have been since the hair transplant. I guess since it started,
we've actually gone backwards.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
in what way?
I want to say something. I can't say it.
Aside from like leaving the turkey side of it, leaving the inexperienced clinics, I guess you can say. Cause
even the experienced clinics in many cases have gone backwards because they're fucking lazy. So what they were very experienced and had the infrastructure to do really great strips. They had the manpower, the people who were actually able to dissect follicular units under microscopic dissection. They understood.
And is this because? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they understood. The importance of maintaining pure follicular units, and in some cases they had to separate ones, but for the most part, keep that bulb, keep that unit intact.
Yeah.
When it comes to FUE, it's unfortunately, they're going for as many grafts as possible. A lot of them have not maintained their staff. They never really learned how to do it the right way. Even though they were doing strips, and they hired some new staff that were more proficient at FUE. So essentially, whatever they're taking out of the back of your head, they're putting in the front of your scalp. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-hair graft or a 3-hair graft. I have seen clinics who have had really great strip results, refined work, who are now, and in some cases, they've improved their issues. Because they've hired the wrong staff and kind of turned the other cheek, they're wondering why their work is looking so pluggy.
Yeah.
And it's happening all the time, all over the place. Mm. I would say a large percentage of guys who've had to switch later on to doing more FUE are having problems.
And I think one thing to keep in mind is you have to understand why FUE is even a thing. Why do we have follicular unit extraction? One reason alone: fear. Fear of the strip scar. That's it. There is no other reason why we have FUE. It's not because FUE has better growth than FUT, done the right, graft for graft, clinic for clinic. It's not because you can get more grafts. It's not because it's better looking results. None of that went into why we have FUE today. It is solely, absolutely because of fear of the strip scar, and how clinics and how companies like NeoGraft, again, hats off to NeoGraft back in the day, having an ad with one picture, 2 heads, one with a strip scar, one without a strip scar, and the tagline, the NeoGraft difference, or I think it was something like that. Absolute brilliance in simplicity, and it helped to fuel the fear that got FUE to where we are today. That's it. That is the history of FUE, of how it got started.
So speaking of FUE versus strip, why is it said that strip yields more? I guess when you, in the process of harvesting FUE, do you lose grafts in that process, or
you lose grafts for both processes?
Yeah, but when you're extracting the FUE grafts, do you lose others that are around it? Because if they're doing it one by one, wouldn't there be the same amount? Wouldn't each graft that you take out be the? It's kind of hard to explain what I'm trying to say. Obviously, because of the strip scar, you dissect it and you can yield whatever you get from that strip. But when you extract an FUE, you're selecting each graft one by one.
I think I know what you're trying to get at. But you have to understand when you first of all, when you use a strip, when you have a piece of tissue that's under magnification, that's under a microscope, you're seeing that tissue in it's 3-dimensional. It's not blind. The tissue is already outside of the body, and in the 306-degree field can be seen. So the grafts are more easily, unless someone is a complete novice or has no idea what they're doing, don't care what they're doing, you can ensure, for the most part, that at least within that strip, you're not going to transect any hairs. Yeah, when you remove the strip, depending on how careful a person is, there is a possibility of transection when the strip is being removed from the scalpel blade. unfortunately, in some cases, some people are still using double-bladed knives, which causes a tremendous amount of unnecessary
That blew my mind.
transection.
I just learned of a new doctor, or a doctor's been around for a long time, but a new discovery that they're using a double blade scalpel. Blew my mind.
Essentially, that's in order to do the strip and have it speed, in a more expeditious fashion. But I would consider that a follicular holocaust, because there's really no way to kind of slowly and methodically go around the follicular units with that scalpel and avoid transecting adjacent hairs. You're just basically going haphazard. So, but once that strip is removed from the body, you have a 360-degree view. Unless you're fucking blind and you know what you're doing, there's going to be no transection from that tissue that's already outside the body. So right there and then, you're going to have a much better yield rate. When you're dealing with FUE, no matter how much magnification there is and how skilled the technician or the practitioner or the surgeon is, it's a blind procedure. Still don't know what's happening under that skin. You just still don't know how much of a splay is happening until you remove a few grafts. And then even so, even if you get a feel that this person's hair characteristics are a certain way, every part of the scalp could be slightly different, and the tissue on each part of the scalp could be slightly different. So those factors are part of the equation when you are putting out transection rates. And the reality is, most doctors really don't know what their true transection rates are. If people are throwing out numbers like 1 or 2% all the time, you got to find out how they're counting the percentage. Do they have a special person that's dedicated to looking under each graft with a microscope and counting and putting the transected grafts into a different petri dish? Or is it just like, we're just going to say 1 or 2%, and fuck it, no one knows?
Yeah. And you want to know what's funny? Every clinic has been saying 1 or 2% for the past 25 years.
Yeah, just
strip and FUE. What's your transaction rate? Maybe 2%.
Because it sounds good.
But at the same time, the transaction rates have been improving. So how is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, use your head. Think about it.
Whenever you said that you believe that it's getting worse now than what it used to be, is it possible? Is that because doctors are trying to compete with like Turkey and prices and numbers? The numbers?
No, it's because of it's just because it's a commodity now. Like I was saying before, like with more plastic surgeons getting into it, but they're not actually getting into it. They're hiring people to do it for them in-house. There's no passion for their craft, right? I'm a firm believer that if you're going to offer hair transplant surgery, you better be really passionate about it and wanting to always look for ways to improve the way that you're doing it with your own hand. Even technicians that are doing this for other doctors, be dedicated, understand your craft, know your craft, be good at your craft, and always be humble to the point where you need to improve and continue to improve. Too many clinics out there are looking at this as just another procedure to add to their menu. So what are you in here today? For butt lift, boob job, or hair transplant? Or all three? No, that's not the way you do it. You got to find specialization, because this is there's so much skill that goes into being able to create a proper hairline, not once or twice, every fucking time. To understand angle, to understand direction, to understand single hair grafts and how to get those. It blows my mind. I weep for the future. I've watched this industry just nosedive as far as not just the quality, but the expectations of that quality. So many people are just uninformed about what looks natural. What looks natural? Well, today, most of the idiots getting hair transplants just think, oh, as long as it looks thick and I got a squared off low hairline, that's natural. No, dipshit, that's not natural. It's got to, I mean, the shape can be natural, but you got to have the proper angle, proper direction, proper use of single hairs, proper donor supply to meet the eventual demand. But there's so much that has just been lost, and it really it's sad. I actually get down sometimes because I think about all the people that are screwed up because
I was just thinking, when was the last time I actually had a drink? Because this conversation makes me want to go across the street and get a little loaded and have a good steak. Because this is the reality. No matter what the politicians or anybody says, it's like they ignore the fact that this industry is being allowed to be destroyed. And you are a young guy who's calling the show, trying to get answers. And you ask questions, and you're very thorough, and you ask a lot of questions, and we don't mind, you know. When I was on the radio, I mean, my producer was always like trying to get, you know, you got to get to the next caller, get to the next caller. People are going to hang up. They don't want to listen to long calls. My whole thing was always, look, these people are calling for help. This is a unique program. Let's take the time to answer their fucking questions. But you take the time to ask thoughtful questions. You always, you're spending a lot of time where some people may be thinking, rolling their eyes, saying, oh, I heard this 1,000 times. I'm thinking, this guy's trying to be thorough. And the fact that you're asking us so many questions proves how difficult it is for people to be thorough.
Yeah.
Because the information is not presented to them in an honest way.
Yeah.
100%.
Because if you think about like a consumer, you can only imagine how thorough you have to be as the producer, I guess you can say, and the producer meaning the person providing the service.
Well, let me tell you something that the vast majority of physicians who are offering hair transplant surgery today, and actually it's always been that way, except there's a smaller group, now it's scaled, are not doing it to state-of-the-art standards, really don't give a shit about what they're doing, in my view, because if they did, none of this shit would be happening. I know I give a shit about my work. I know what I do, to me, is the most important thing. I would never give anybody advice that I could not give to, well, my brother's dead, but to a brother or a sibling or a family member or even Joe, or not that he needs my advice. But, you know, I mean, that's the reality. I do my best to work with physicians who have consistently great track records. And you know what? If they fuck up, and if they fuck up enough times, I separate myself. You know, I'm only human. There's only so much I can do, especially from this microphone, except tell you guys what you need to know when you go into that consultation, when you're considering having surgery, when you're considering anything, so that you can make the right choices. I always tell people, if you go to the IHS, and I mean, we are the most trafficked society in the world, bar none. No one even comes close to what we do and to the amount of eyeballs looking at our content and at our physicians. But even with that said, if I were to say, oh yeah, just go down the list, pick whoever you want, and you're going to be good, I would be lying to you. Because there's not a physician on that list who is a member of the organization, who supports our message, that doesn't have at least one unhappy patient out there. So it really comes down to you. We're trying to provide you the most narrow path to, so that you can make an educated decision and make it easier. Close that box as tight as possible so you can work within a much smaller sphere to make an educated decision. But even when you do that, you hear bullshit. Even when I heard from fucking Morty, it's just like, Jesus Christ. Now this guy's he's a good doctor. He's been with the organization for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I certainly wouldn't have somebody come into when I have people come into my studio and sit down, I'm not like, you know what? I don't want you to write anything negative about me online, about your experience, or about me, or about my studio, or I'm going to have you sign this. I do make them lock their phones up, but that's another story.
It's interesting how like you have the right, right to free speech or have voice your own opinion, but when it comes to like certain things like that, you can actually get like sued. And I might not be like well educated in terms of like what the terms are called, like with defamation.
Yeah.
But like if someone buys like a television or a phone, they have the right to go online and write, oh, I don't like this TV, that sucks, or write 1 star, or 2 star, whatever it is, the cell phone. But likewise, if you get like a cosmetic surgery, you have to sign away.
Well, that's not
form,
that,
like
that that's not necessarily true. A, you don't have to sign it, and B, as long as you're not defaming anybody, you can write whatever you want. Now, the reality is, depending on what that particular form was, if it states, you can sue me if I choose to write a review, that's a different story. You can sue me. I give you complete. I relinquish my rights to discuss my surgery. That's a different story because you're signing a contract and you're saying, but that would be unreasonable. I would have to actually see what this was. But the reality is, I am not a fan of anyone using scare tactics when it comes to surgery.
It's almost like you're coerced. It's like if you don't, most of the doctors that are asking you to sign that won't proceed with the procedure more than likely if you don't sign or whatever, if they're asking you to do it, to sign it to begin with.
But also, and the reality is, to me, is on the other side of the coin, I think that there's a lot of fucked up people out there who will try to extort physicians, and they do all the time. Physicians do need some way to protect themselves. We created resources that protect both consumers and physicians from extortion. That's important. We have a verification process when it comes to, complaints. There was some information sent to me recently about someone who is just, initially was told to file a complaint and then chose not to file a complaint, but wants some sort of specific responses that relate to him claiming that he was a patient. Now, my staff handled it really well, but the reality is, unless we know it's a real patient, unless it's verified, especially when someone says they're a patient of someone who is a part of what we do, we don't know where who this is coming from, what it's about. And, frankly, it is, in my view, it's disingenuous. And sadly, there's a lot of people out there who simply want ammunition so that they can destroy their doctor's reputation. That could be their competitors. It happens all the time. Yeah. And that's why we closed the back end to the message form. There's no PMing system because when it was open for a very short period of time, what was happening? Someone would ask about a doctor. Then some fucking consultant would come on and say, we're in the same area. We can give you this for this price. You don't want to see Dr. So-and-so.
Yeah, competition.
So all I can tell you is, I understand why a physician would want to protect themselves because it's fucking dangerous out there. However, the same physicians who want to protect themselves were supporting, and some still support, pure evil in this field. Places where people have the opportunity to extort physicians.
Yeah.
And they just do it for leads.
So I may have missed the majority of the beginning of the episode, but what was it that inspired you guys to have this topic?
There's actually a conversation that we were having in a private WhatsApp group. I think that was Joe's inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brought to their attention that essentially, one physician is essentially coming out and saying, look, you can't blame one organization, and you got to start with stop with the negative stuff and this and that, and there's a lot of good people who are part of this organization, and really the bad guys out there, the people that you have to fight are those who are commoditizing this industry. And the reality is, the industry was commoditized from the 1970s and 1980s.
Yeah.
And the very people who are part of these boards and part of these organizations are some of the worst offenders, even some of the younger guys. So it's not just the elephants, the old guys that were doing this. This is the way the industry has been built This is the way that it's been marketed. And the reason why the black market exists today is because it was a wide open, I mean, they basically learned from the OGs. And but they scaled it and they became better at it.
Free consultations and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free fucking consultations. You're going to see a doctor. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think also what may have contributed to that too is the advancement of the technology. I guess the use or the implementation of FUE, where you don't have to cut out the skin and surgically stitch together back the head, which makes it easier for doctors to employ technicians.
100%. Well, that's the reason why it was scaled to the way that it is. That's not the reason why the industry was commoditized.
No.
It was scaled. The old school industry was just scaled much more easily because it was a much different barrier to entry. Now, I know Alan Bauman takes, what's the word? He objects to this when I say there's less of a barrier to entry, because the truth is, in a way, he's right. I mean, what was the barrier to entry back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s? All you needed was a fucking punch. That was the barrier to entry.
Biopsy.
Biopsy punch. And then things started to become refined and became more of a true surgical, not that that's not surgery, but a surgical procedure where you're creating a huge wound. You have to close up, suture that wound. There was much more involved when it came to what's now known as conventional strip harvesting. But with that said, yeah, I mean, it's only been scaled. That's it. What they created has been scaled, frankly, by smarter people. Not more ethical people. I'm not saying, just happen to be smarter people who understood how to scale it and understood how to market it in a much more palatable way. And like Joe brought up earlier, Graft company did it in the simplest, most elegant fashion, and that is what changed the field. All they had to show, and even if it was photoshopped, I'm not sure if it was or not, but it was the same guy, side by side. One image has a strip scar, and one is pristine. And that was the future. That's all they needed to do.
I remember seeing that on an in-flight magazine on a flight, and I knew right then, game over.
I took a picture of it. I remember how long ago. This was on a fucking Nokia phone. So this was like 2007, I think.
Yeah.
Took a picture of it. Sent it to, I think, Alan Bauman. And I'm like, it's over, man. This is it. And then we kind of went out there and kind of gave a Graft a warning about what the reality can be, you know, if real hair transplant surgeons are not getting their hands on this device. So listen, man, we appreciate the call. I hope that we're able to help you at least not jump into anything at this point. And, you're asking all the right questions. And you can continue to call when you have more questions. All right, man?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
All right, see you.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727, 888-659-3727. Look, what we are telling you on this broadcast is it's just important, because I am finding out the drips and drabs that even the people you believe are telling consumers the truth may not be fully forthright. And that's unfortunate, because
it's weird.
Because we should be here together to change this field. Now, I can't give you an exact day or time or date, but we are very close. I would say within 90 days of being in a position to completely change the field. And what that means is that all of you guys are going to have access to information that before this has occurred, you've never had access to, which will help you on your own, even before you call this program, even before you find the American Hair Loss Association. make an initial assessment of who you should consider and who you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And it is fucking powerful. And it will change the game forever. I'm excited about it. What was that?
I was like, I'm asking the group, does it sound exciting?
You know who I'm excited for? I'm excited for the guys who are going to be waking up in 90 days, doing their research, and thinking that they're just going to go to some turnkey guy or some guy who's holding up a big fucking statue of a follicle. You know? Or some guys doing Botox specials, Botox Tuesdays.
Botox Tuesday.
And happens to be, doing hair transplants and happens to be a politician.
That's double board certified.
That it was at one point claiming to be double board certified and board certified in hair transplant surgery.
100%.
So all I can tell you is, for everyone who's upset, the doctors who are listening, whatever it is, stay close. Those who are part of what we do are going to benefit tremendously. Period. You're already part of it. Don't even worry about it. You just sit and enjoy the fucking ride because it's going to be a new day. Those who do not support our message and do not support the truth, it's my advice to find something else to do with your lives.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that. I said this at a conference. I also made a decision when I was at this conference that you can't go to somebody else's conference anyway.
Not anymore. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's too political. Anything that has any politics involved is something that needs to be eradicated from this field in order to help patients. That's it. And as far as the organization that's currently political, they could change. They don't have to be political. They can just focus on getting doctors through those doors and well-educated and prepared for patients who need their help. That should be the service they provide this world.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm good.
You really are. You really are.
Dude, your mic is just like, your voice is like mellifluous, man.
So thank you. Mellifluous.
I have one of those. I don't particularly love the way that, not necessarily that I sound. I like the old school RE20. No one online uses it, so I'm kind of keeping it. But I got to tell you, the sound on your mic is beautiful. It's robust, but it's not overbearing.
I am super happy with it. I was able to just go 2 blocks.
It's a good purchase. West
of my home and pick it up.
Yeah.
It's good to be in this spot.
Good purchase. Andrew Zarian got me one for my 50th birthday. It was kind of cute. He had it. They took me out. We were in Bayside. Took me out to Uncle Jack's, and he had this whole table set up, and it was like covered in this glass box that he had, and he unveiled it in front of everybody.
And you've not used it since.
I'm like, dude, I'm on a fucking 100, man. No, it was really. I got to tell you, it was a really nice birthday. Kids that I grew up with, we had a fucking dinner. They didn't even everyone's asked the waiter goes, the waitress goes, or the server, I should say, waitress. How old am I? Says, do you guys want dessert? Usually on someone's birthday, everyone orders dessert, and they surprise them with a little birthday thing. Every one of the fucking tables said no. I don't really want any dessert. I couldn't believe it. I grew up with some of these kids.
It was probably because you were like the big letdown. They're like, here it is. Here's your birthday gift, and you're like, fuck.
No. They didn't even get me. I had 2 birthdays. I had one with my old school friends. One guy couldn't make it, but a couple of old school friends. And I remember the guy that couldn't make it actually said, "Make sure you get him a cake."
Of course.
So these guys totally forgot it. Then I went out with Andrew and Jessica, and I think Andrew's brother, and it was the next night, and they went all out, man. I had like 10 desserts. Fucking birthday gift. It was unbelievable. It was like the best birthday I ever had.
Made up for it.
I mean, besides the time I was 11 years old, my father got me a Kodak Instamatic camera.
Ooh, those are good.
That's my memory of good times. How sad is that?
Well, when mail order bought me some gifts for my birthday fairly recently, one of the things that she bought me was an Apache USB mic.
Ah.
And she didn't know what I was using at the time was a really good mic, and I was really happy with it. And so I was like, of all the gifts you got me, that one's like, you got the gift receipt, so that one's going back, and here's why. And she's like, okay, she was cool with it, and I was scared to say no, thank you, but no, but it worked out, and I went back to the Apple store where she got it, and I got these light panels behind me with the money, which was really cool. And here we are 2 months later, and my microphone craps out. Like, shit, I wish I had that one as a backup, because I didn't have, remember I was just using these earbuds mic on was it the last week's show, and I could have used a microphone, but it worked out because I'm really glad I got this.
Well, I would definitely have a backup, and I would contact the company of the crapped out mic and see if they can do something for you, so you have a backup.
We'll see.
I have three backups. I have three RE20s, and I have the SM7.
Very cool.
And I also have an SM58.
Well, yeah, for when you want to rock out.
Yeah, like in front of my underwear, in front of the big window. All right, guys, listen. We don't have any calls, so we're going to call it a night. Unless someone calls in, we are going. Phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes. We're here to answer your questions about anything and everything hair loss. I'm learning that it's more important to provide some of the inside baseball than ever before, because you guys are taking the time to write us.
Yeah.
And write us through the Bald Truth. You're writing us privately to thank us for the information that we're providing. Sometimes when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, do people really understand? Is it worth putting it out there? I got to tell you, to me, it's like if I was making a decision that is going to impact my life in such a profound way, I would love to know where the bodies are buried and who the fucking drug addicts are and who the questionable characters are and what goes on behind the scenes, as opposed to just focusing on improving things. That it's really all about power mongering.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? What is the turf? What did the turf battles mean? They mean that all of you guys who are considering and putting your faith in this field have a much greater potential of being harmed than if these things weren't going on. So you know what? I think you guys need to know about it.
100%.
Give out the websites, dude.
Hold on. Just got to respond to SK. Yep. There we go. Yeah, the websites. Okay. So as always, we got some great supporters that believe in our message and want to do their bit to help get the word out. Starting off with hairlossexperiences.com. They are the UK-based hair loss and hair restoration forum where clinics are sharing results, patients sharing their experiences, and the owner of the forum and the website is working hard behind the scenes to help other repair patients like himself and like myself. Good guy, good place to learn more about the procedure and what people are going through. Check him out, hairlossexperiences.com. After that, we've got bellycapelli.forumfree.it. It is the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum where clinics sharing results, patients sharing experiences, and they too, or he too, the owner, is a repair patient helping others behind the scenes, always supporting our message. It's bellycapelli.forumfree.it. www.forumfree.it. And finally, we've got international-hairlossforum.com. It's the French hair loss, hair restoration forum. Again, clinics sharing results and patients sharing experiences, and they are also supporting this message and this broadcast. That's international-hairlossforums.com. Check them all out.
Joe Tillman's personal website is hairtransplantmentor.com. That's for everything Joe Tillman. Check it out if you want to know about why Joe is the original hair transplant mentor. I don't even know if I introduced him tonight. I think I got kind of carried away with the opening.
You didn't.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Like I have to introduce Joe Tillman?
Just do it. Do it twice next time.
I will.
Okay. What's the beginning? What's in the end? If you don't know who was talking, by the way, that's Joe.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good fucking idea. He's the first guy. That's why he's the original hair transplant mentor, to put his, basically almost, I was going to say live. What is it called? When you're putting stuff on time on the internet? Real time. Jesus.
Oh, real time.
Basically, he documented his repair surgery in real time before anyone was putting shit out there on the internet like this. I mean,
blogging before blogging was a word.
Right. Old school. And he changed the game. No one, it's funny how little credit Joe Tillman gets, not only for helping so many people in this world, and he's getting more credit now, but I'm talking about from guys in the industry. He really changed the online game. The online game, the way that it existed for a while, did not exist until Tillman came out and did his thing. Period. That's the reality of it. So doctors who are listening to this, who think that Joe is just some sort of a consultant, or he's been part of the show for a while, or whatever, and he's connected to Paranoid Spence.
I was waiting for that.
The reality is, if it wasn't for him, there would be so many more people harmed at the hands of many of the politicians in the field and everybody else. So that's my personal homage to Joe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joe's YouTube channel is youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Please subscribe to watch live broadcasts of this show. Through his site, but also to join his chat. Also for his hair transplant classes, very important stuff. There's also going to be some really great new stuff happening. Like I said, it's going to take about 90 days, but everything is in the works. And this isn't hype. We're not just trying to hype you up, because we got nothing to sell you. You're just going to be getting a lot more truth in a lot more efficient ways. That's it. So I'm excited about that. So ring the bell, subscribe, like this broadcast while you're in the room right now. I'd really appreciate it, and so will Joe. TheBaldTruth.com for archives of this broadcast. The American Hair Loss Association for AmericanHairLoss.org. We are AmericanHairLoss.org. We're the most referenced hair loss resource in the world. I was listening, I know we're closing up, I was listening to a podcast today, and essentially was talking about branding and industry. And I watch all these people who are working so hard to try to brand themselves, but they're all working in the same fucking pool of blood, scratching and fighting and tearing at each other and trying to get a fucking leg up. I've always kind of enjoyed being in blue waters. And that's the reason why the world looks at the American Hair Loss Association as the go-to organization, period, bar none. Never had to claw our way past the competition because there was no competition. You know why? Because we were just telling the truth in an authoritative way. International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, IAHRS.org. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, it is a good first step to start to do your research. Start there, do your due diligence, whittle it down from there. But the bottom line is you have to see patients, meet patients, understand the right questions to ask so you can get the right answers.
Before you be a patient.
Right. Before you be a patient. Meet patients before you be a patient. Right. It's because it's a dangerous place out there, man. It really is. But the good news is if you're the right candidate, find the right clinic, you're in the right hands, your experience can be life-changing in a positive way, and you can come out of this not only unscathed, excuse me, but in a much better position in your life. But it takes a lot of research. BaldTruthTalk.com is our message forum. Check it out if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers. But again, my advice is kind of check it out, go in. Don't spend too much time on the forums, even though it's great that we're very well trafficked. No one who owns a forum would ever say that. But the first rule to me is stay off the fucking forums. Because in general, even if it's the most moderated forum, sometimes it makes things confusing. Sometimes the information on there can be pure poison. We try to make that not the case, but sometimes things slip through. So just take what you read with a grain of salt. If you're going to take advice, make sure you know that, where the advice is coming from. If it's just an avatar from an anonymous person, I wouldn't trust it. Wouldn't trust it. If it's a guy who's been on the forums for 40 years, still won't put his face out there, I don't know if I would trust it. Anyway, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.